Noah Clark, and you're watching Worldwide Sim Racing for the Spanish Grand Prix. We are racing around the Barcelona de Catalunya circuit in Barcelona, and we are just getting ready for WSR action 24 seconds from the start of the qualifying session. Of course, again, I am joined today by the ever-prevalent official Sully. Glad to have you in the commentary booth today for the final race of the first part of the WSR 2020 Formula World Championship. Which is going to be happening in just a few days as the 2020 challengers from all the F1 teams are being finally revealed. I'm very, very excited about the 2020 season coming up. It's looking to be pretty exciting, and I'm especially interested to see how the Ferrari does. We are having some startup issues right now. I don't know why that's the case, but I'm just going to communicate. Oh. Well, I definitely expect the people to be qualifying on the medium compound tires. Spain is quite a high degradation track, so I think drivers would like to start on the mediums, not on the softs. Anybody's going on the softs are going to, again, just like in Bahrain, have a pretty horrid day. And really, it's about keeping patience. There's not really a lot of places to overtake on the track except the start-finish straight, so I expect a lot of trains of cars and hopefully some really good overtakes on the start-finish straight and maybe the first couple of corners. But the drivers are... but I think the drivers should be wary of how things are going. Reminds me of, I remember one of the biggest incidents in 2018 on lap 1, Romain Grosjean spinning on that turn 3 turn in which he caused a massive accident with Pierre Gasly and I believe Hülkenberg as well in the Renault at the time. So hopefully we don't see any of those big incidents into the first lap. But again, anything can happen. Drivers do have to be wary that turn 3 turn is not a completely flat turn. You do have to lift off a tiny bit on the halfway point, because if you do completely go flat, you will go too wide into the turn and you will go off into the gravel, and then who knows what can happen with your car at that point. You'll be sent into a flurry. Hopefully drivers remember to lift off at that point, or else we could see some incidents happening with drivers going into the back of other drivers, but we'll have to wait and see. As we're just getting ready for the start, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize for the delay. We just had a bit of an issue with the host, Yusemi Flyan of the lobby, and we will get this race started as soon as possible. While we get into that, let's discuss the championship so far, as we are in round 6 of the championship. And this is going to be our first break, except, of course, we did break for the Super Bowl, but that was more of a special occasion break. This is going to be the first official break in the season. Do wait next week. We will have a seasonal rounds 1 through 6 recap video going up on Sunday instead of the usual race, but we will also have the Tier 2 race on Saturday still, so you can expect some WSR racing action that week. But official Sully, what do you think of the championship so far? How are the drivers doing, and who right now do you think is in the best place in the championship to be making moves. We obviously know who's in first place, but is there anybody down the line that you still expect to come back on top? And we're just getting ready. We have 10 drivers on the grid right now. A few drivers have dropped out. I hope they don't realize that we're having these issues. And it's actually 8 drivers right now on the grid at the moment. We did have a few beforehand, and hopefully we can get them back into the race as we get ready to start. But yeah, so it is going to be quite interesting. I am quite impressed with. Oh, actually, I think we're getting into another lobby possibly, and I think that is what the case is. So we will be going into a lobby. I do apologize for the blue screen you're going to be seeing right now. I just have to accept this invite into the new lobby, and we are just joining up right now. So just wait 1 second, and yep, we are into a new lobby. So we are just going to get ready and set to go and make sure everything is all good to go. Of course, there was an issue with UCME Flying's PlayStation. We do apologize for that. But I am quite impressed with Flip Flop Fish's performance in the championship. I think it's a different driver than we saw last year. A driver that's definitely a lot more committed and definitely a lot more, to say the least, I think he's a lot more patient in the car. He knows when to be making overtakes, knows not when to be making overtakes, and I think it's really good to see him in a much more comfortable position in the championship. And I think that Sweet Crown 19, I think, is a little threatened a little bit by Flip Flop Fish. I think that he hasn't really expected this kind of performance from him, and I think he's getting a little bit brought back a little bit. And for a driver who had almost no challenge in 2019, the 2020 championship definitely proving a much harder experience for Sweet Crown 19. Definitely a added level of talent on the grid this season. And again, we did see that incident in Germany between Flip Flop Fish and Sweet Crown 19, which I think has caused a little bit of boiling over of emotions. We saw it in Bahrain a little bit. The drivers were definitely getting it a little personal on track, which we always like to see, but we do obviously want them to be driving safely around track. We will be getting started very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. We're just waiting for the official notification from UCME Flying to start this race. But it is going to be quite interesting as we move on and towards the season. Will those bad bloods arise more and more, and will we see some incidents that are caused just on pure ego behavior from the drivers and their driving style? I hope that's not the case. We don't want to see big incidents, but again, that does add to the drama of the championship, which maybe then some people do want to see. And again, we're just getting ready. 13 drivers currently in this lobby as we're getting ready for action in the Circuit de Barcelona Catalonia. Again, the site of the 2020 preseason testing, as it has been the site of preseason testing in Formula One for over the past decade, I believe. And nope, actually, we did have a few preseason testing, I believe, in Bahrain very early on in the past decade. But nevertheless, it's still been the preseason testing location for a number of years, and definitely excited to see how the 2020 challengers get on, as we're just about 1 month away from the start of the 2020 Formula One World Championship. But we are in round 6 of the WSR Formula World Championship, and the battle is heating up, and I'm very excited to get started in this race. And we're just again waiting for the official start of the race. Definitely very excited for the 2021 regulations and who is going to come on top in 2021 and who is going to make the biggest impact. I'm definitely excited to see that out of the drivers. It is definitely going to be interesting. I do again apologize. We're just waiting for the start of the race. And here we are. We are just about to get ready. And it is qualifying. It is different from the normal F1 qualifying, which is 3 subsections of qualifying. We have Q1, which is all the drivers. Q2, which I believe is 15 of all the drivers, and then the final qualifying 3 is for the top 10 shootout. In this, we have a short qualifying. It's 18 minutes of qualifying. The drivers can go out as many times as they want within the 18 minutes and try to set the fastest time. Again, the fastest time they set on that tire is going to be the tire that they start on in the start of the race. So drivers, again, I do believe are going to be looking, if you do qualify in the top 10, correct. But I do believe drivers who believe they can get to the top are going to be wanting to start on the medium tires to prolong their lifespan, because the soft tires are going to grind up fast around this track. Especially considering how hard the Renault is to handle. We've had many drivers in the past complain about the Renault. It's not a very good car. It's a little squirmy in the turns. It just doesn't feel very good. We do know that the cars are technically on equal, but again, the chassis are different. The cars are going to feel slightly different. That's like saying balance of power in a World Endurance Championship race means everything. It really doesn't. The cars are going to handle slightly different, as somebody is already out on track, and it is Damien Carroll in the Williams. I'm going to ride on board of him and take you on a lap of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalonia, one of my favorite tracks on the F1 calendar for sure. It is definitely a fun lap to watch, as again, we're riding on board of the Rocket Williams racing car, which I'm actually very excited to see this season. It's going to be revealed tomorrow, and I'm hoping to see a little bit more red on the car. It does look like the car is hyping up to have some red on it, but then again, Ferrari teases a new livery like they're going to really change the Ferrari every year, and then we just get the same livery design as per usual. So let's not look too much. I'm actually quite happy they didn't put flames on the car. Definitely not. I'm actually hoping. You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see an old red Martini Williams style design. They obviously don't have the Martini sponsor, but they do have that red on there with Rocket. I hope they go all red, to be quite frank with you. As we're going on, Damien Carroll opens up the rear flap of his rear wing for the DRS going down the straight, and he is going to start his qualifying lap in the turn 1 with maximum speed, trying to go as fast as possible. There's a yellow flag in Sector 3. Official Soul, if you can tell me who that possibly was, it does go away quite quickly. As going around the turn, Damien Carroll not doing what I said before. Turn 3, he did not lift off on the throttle, went quite wide, extending past the white line on the green section. That might be an invalidated lap from him, as he is going... Nope, he isn't. All right, so we're going to continue on. He is missing the apexes quite a lot, actually. Damien is not on this lap currently. Another yellow flag in Sector 3. It's a Mercedes of UCME. Niklas goes faster, an 18.9. Gurman in third position. I'm going to ride on board of You See Me Flying. He's about to finish his lap as well. Oh, almost loses the car coming up towards the end of Sector 3. And at the moment, the top three, Gurman, Flip-Flop, and Niklas, as we're going to ride on board with You See Me Flying right now, coming around the final turn. And just running up on the curb. What's this time going to be? DRS activated. It's going to be best for fourth. Just 0.2 behind. You See Me Flying. And I'm going to ride on board now with... I thought somebody was coming close to the end of their lap. And De Villers is about to set a time. And no, he must have invalidated. Damien Carroll is still coming around track, I would presume, as Blank goes into the pits. So not a lot of drivers deciding to make laps. Sweet Crown 19 is on an out lap right now. Scar Logan is finishing up his lap, I think, just about. As no, he's actually got full ERS, so I think he's aborted this lap at this point.
I would like to apologize for my mic there over the last few minutes. I had my party settings a bit messed up as I was in a party during the week, so you didn't hear me for the first few minutes. I apologize for that. So, as we're having a look at the lap times, it's definitely impressive how Nick has, after outpacing Flip-Flop Fish on the hard compounded tires by almost 0.5 of a second, he did come second, only behind Jonathan Cox. Yes, last week at Bahrain, but they were on different compounded tires. Jonathan Cox actually goes quicker on the medium compound of a 1 minute 18.7. About 0.2 quicker than Niklas, proving how quick the time by Niklas actually was on that hard compounded tires. I'd be very happy with that if I was him.
I would like to mention as well, there is a new graphic on the broadcast settings of F1. This was added in the recent update. We now get a track mini-map on the side of the lap, so you can see the cars going around the exact point of the track. Also good to note for you, Official Soul, you don't have to tell me that the track's invalidated, because I get to see it right on the mini-map as well if a car has in fact invalidated his lap. So I will get to know that as soon as possible. Again, relaying more information to you as quickly as possible. So definitely an ease of experience.
You can also put it to a full track map as well, which is the one I have it on, which is very nice for seeing where exactly all of the yellow flags are, which is how I've been able to tell that over the last few minutes, and I've been informing you off. As Scar Logan is now on a lap. Oh, he's just after setting it, I believe, at 1 minute 20.7. I'm not sure if he just set that up or if he's going for another one now on the exact same competent tires. I believe he's halfway down on the ERS. I don't think he's going for another quick lap.
No, I think he's definitely slowing up quite a lot.
Pastor is now on his lap, though. He's now on his quick lap, as it looks like he will be trying to get up there as far as he can. He's on the Red Wall soft compounded tires, the quickest tire compound available, as now we just have soft, mediums, and hard for the 2019 and 2020 season.
And just touching the green, curbing around there again, that's not an invalidation of track. Somebody did go fastest in the first sector. I do believe that was to Pastor. Of course, he is on that soft compound tire, so he will be going fast. He's actually coming up towards a Williams, who's going a little slowly in front of him.
that would be Damien Corral, because the other Williams is actually behind him at the moment. Or at least he was, or further up the track, I can't tell which one. Yeah, that would be Dempsey, I believe. Yeah, it's Dempsey just up ahead of him. I don't think you'll run into him on this lap, but
Sector 2 is not purple.
To see what type of, which is definitely interesting considering he is on the quickest competent tire. The deck is also on a quick lap as well. That yellow flag, I believe, is in Sector 3. I think that's just the Ferraris and everybody going slow, trying to make a bit of room for their build-ups. As that's
and
a bit of a
Pastor had a really bad line through there, and he's into the box. I think
an install lap probably.
I don't know too sure because he was really compromised in the end of the lap because he did have to avoid the Ferrari. Yeah. I don't think he really got the best braking line into the turn. The deck is out. And it's a yellow flag on the DRS straight, I believe. The second DRS straight in Sector 2. If we can ride on board with the Villers. No, it'd be one of the... And, somebody else spun. It was Blank. Blank 101 has spun, and he's reversing on track. And he almost just hit a Renault.
Who also spun, I'd like to point out. I'm watching flip-flop at the moment. Yeah, it looks like the Renault of the deck is just after slamming into the wall on the pit straight. No, sorry, on the DRS straight, as it looks like he just went slamming into a wall.
We did see that last year as well in Spain. I believe Used to Be Flying was the one who actually got into an incident. I believe it was a Speed Kills 3 who's been since banned.
Yeah. I was just watching Sweetground, by the way. His DRS was actually caught open in one of the non-DRS areas, which is something that can happen to you. It looks like it's after happening to him, which is after throwing him off a bit. Sweetground is now after going second, splitting Cox and Nicholas between the two, just with a 1 minute 18.857. Flip-Flop Fish is now on a hot lap on the medium compounded tires, I'd like to point out, as he's now going through Sector 1 into the Turn 3 now. Yes, sorry, just having a look at Sweetground again, actually, I just after getting confirmation from one of my inside sources that that apparently he's not able to open it. I apologize. It isn't that it's caught open, it's that he's not able to close it. Flip-Flop Fish is now going through the second sector still now, going up, beginning to approach the flat right as he tries to go on to...
I think he just invalidated, though. I'm seeing red on my mini-map. I do believe it's an invalidated lap.
Possibly, but it's not red on mine for whatever reason.
I think he went wide into the turns coming up towards the DRS strays. He is going quite slowly.
Possibly. We're now having a look at Gernman right behind him. Is also on a quick lap on the soft combat tires, I'd like to point out. Will he qualify on those? It's definitely possible, but I wouldn't recommend being on them. I do believe
Sector 2.
On the softs, I'd like to point out though, most people I think would prefer to begin on the mediums or the hard compounded tires, as tire wear around this circuit is not very friendly. As it is a very high deg circuit. Also expect top speeds to be down, as most drivers would go for a very high downforce setup to
and Gurman goes second fastest. It's a 1:18.8.
Splitting ahead of his teammate, actually, who is on the hard compound tires, but not by much. Just proves how good that lap was by Sweetground, to be only 0.4 of a second behind his teammate. Sweetground is now also on the soft compounded tires out on track. If this is going to be an installation lap or flying, I don't know. Flip-Flop is back into the pit, so he didn't set that lap. Blank is now on a hot, I believe is...
He is on an out lap. No, I believe he's on an out lap.
In lap, I believe.
Sorry, in lap?
His DRS is very far down. Yeah, his DRS is very far down.
And he's not using any of it.
Blank is on a flying, I believe. I can't entirely tell from my angle. I'm going to quickly bring up my telemetry. No, he's also down on ERS. He 49%. It's hard to tell if he's on a quick lap or if he's just going around at his normal pace, as Gerdman I know is on an in lap, and everybody else is either on out laps or in the pits. It's interesting to know that De Pastor and Dempsey still haven't set a lap. De Pastor, I believe, is on a quick lap though at the moment.
De Pastor is coming up towards that DRS straight, and he goes a little onto the curb. He has to avoid the Ferrari, who's going extremely slowly in that DRS straight. As he does go fastest, though, in the second sector. Coming up through the third sector, very easy to lose the car coming up into the turn, but he keeps it planted nonetheless, running up on the curb a little bit there, but keeping it close to the line. Now, coming up to the third sector, end of the third sector. The slow chicane, which was installed in the early 2000s after safety revisions on this part of the track. It used to be a completely flat turn. As we come now to the start-finish straight, what's the time going to be for Tapastor as he actually defaults on his ERS, and it's only a fastest. He actually had a problem. He deployed too much of his ERS on the hot lap, and if you do not manage your ERS and you just keep it on hot lap the whole time, you will get a anti-issue with the ERS, and it just will stop deploying. So that's what happened to him. He deployed too much of his ERS during the lap, and you could actually see on the telemetry that it flashed up on him saying you can't use it anymore.
Flip-Flop Fish is now on an out lap, about to begin his flying lap on the medium compacted tires. His teammate's very close in front of him, so I wonder, are they going to try and attempt to slipstream? It looks like they're a bit too far away, though, so it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But Flip-Flop will now begin his flying lap into just coming across the line now after activating DRS, now across the line as he approaches turn 1, 2, and 3. Your lap can be ruined in these 3 corners, so you have to make sure you hit them very well. It's also very easy to overcook it as well, so there is a chance of an invalidation as well.
Going through the third turn, keeping it off the green, a very good line indeed, making sure to control his throttle, using as much curbing as possible, and that's fastest through Sector 1 so far for Flip-Flop Fish. Again, he's on that medium compound tire, the ideal tire of choice, in my opinion, to be starting this race on, as coming through that turn and just about extending as much of the track as possible. Now, this is a section a lot of drivers have been invalidating on, cutting too much of this curbing, and he keeps it okay as Flip-Flop Fish is coming onto the DRS straight, and he's going to use his DRS, opening it up. His teammate is ahead of him by a little bit. I wonder if he's going to give him slipstream. He is now fastest in Sector 2. And, yep, I believe UCB Flying is slowing up just enough by the time they get to that start-finish straight. Flip-Flop Fish will then be able to get ERS. No, I know he's going to let him by, actually. He's not going to give him that slipstream. I wonder if that's going to cost him, as now UCB Flying basically parked it on track. There's a 5-grid place penalty. Where is Gurman on track? He's doing all right, so I'm a little bit surprised. I wonder what...
They collide on track.
And it is fastest on track. Flip-Flop Fish, it's a 1:18.2. Flip-Flop Fish on provisional pole with 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go, just about.
Yeah, they just had a bit of a collision in the first sector, I believe, like around the first sector split. But so wherever Scar Logan now qualifies, he will be dropped 5 positions. I'd like to remind you that if he qualifies officially in the top 10 in qualifying, he will be dropped back outside of the top 10. If he's dropped outside the top 10, he will still have to begin on these compounded tires, even if you're dropped back with a penalty.
Riding on board of Sweet Crown 19. He is on that medium compound tire. Let's see what he does in the first sector. How much faster can he go, if he can go faster than Flip-Flop Fish? And he does. Fastest in the first sector so far. So a big shootout right now for pole position. I don't believe Sweet Crown 19 will get around for another lap. So that would be his final lap of qualifying. As now coming around that turn again, using as much track as possible. Sweet Crown 19 and Flip-Flop both having very the same laps almost in terms of line. Now, not using as much curb as Sweet Crown 19, coming up on that uphill section towards the DRS straight. On that DRS line, he opens it up. The Haas is ahead of him, and he might have gotten a little bit of slipstream. As yes, fastest in Sector 2 for Sweet Crown 19, coming around that slow turn, very easy to let the car go onto the runoff a little bit. He's hugging the line, coming up towards the slow chicane at the end of the lap. This is going to be a mega lap from Sweet Crown 19 once he can get it done. Coming up onto that chicane now, a little bit of a lockup into that chicane, but he keeps it okay. Now coming around the final turn, he's going to have DRS opening up. There's the DRS. Where's this time going to be? It's going to be fastest. It's a 1:18 flat, and Sweet Crown 19 is ahead of his rival in the championship, Flip-Flop Fish, and I don't think Flip-Flop's going to be setting another time. So at the moment, provisional pole for Sweet Crown 19. I'm going to ride on board of Jonathan Cox now, as he is setting a lap as well in the Haas. Remember, he has been on pole position so far already in this season in Bahrain, as Niklas is third fastest on track at the moment.
Yellow flag sector 1 and 3. I can't tell exactly where that was. Probably just a driver going a bit slow on or coming into the pits. Jonathan Cox is actually approaching Sweet Crown 19, who did let him through, which is good to see. Sector 2 yellow, I think that's just Sweet Crown letting him through. I'm watching Flip-Flop Fish in the pits just to see if he comes out again. So it'll be interesting to see if he'll have time. I don't believe he will, though, at this point.
I think he is done. It's only a minute to go. You wouldn't be able to get around track in time. As I'm
Yeah.
riding on board of Jonathan Cox right now, he's not fastest through the second sector. This isn't going to be a pole position time, though, as the two Haas's are just separated by just a few tenths of a second. It was Blank 101 letting by his teammate Jonathan Cox, who will be setting a time. Now, can he get into the top three? He is currently fourth in qualifying. Gurman is on an outlap right now. He should be able to finish his outlap and get another time through. Jonathan Cox coming around the final turn. Now, DRS Open, what's the time going to be? It is going to be not faster. He might have gone a little bit faster, but it wasn't enough for Hired and fourth. Now I'm going to ride on board of Gurman. He's coming around the final turn with 15 seconds to go, so he will set another time. Now, can Gurman, who has not been the best in qualifying this season so far, get on pole position? I would like to say, what tire is he on right now? He is on that he's on the soft compound tire. So is it going to be an upset as the top three are done? Gurman and Cox are not done, but Cox is essentially done. Here comes Gurman through the first sector. Can he go fastest? I would imagine so. And no, not fastest in the first sector. And the medium tire showing an that's a spin by the Ferrari, and the Ferrari of Gurman.
You see me flying goes third.
You see me flying goes third, but the Ferrari of Gurman has spun through the third turn and has ruined his lap, and now he's sixth fastest as Cox has actually jumped him. And that is not good indeed for the Ferraris, who are separated by quite a few positions.
Tapastor will now be next across the line. Where will he go? Will he go up the order? No, he won't. He'll stay where he is. Blank is going to be next across the line, I believe.
I do believe he'll go faster, as the Sector 2 time was 7 tenths down. Let's see how much faster Blank 101 goes. How high can he go up on the grid? It's going to be seventh fastest, just behind Gurman.
Gurman is very close behind Jonathan Cox. I don't think either of them are about to set a very quick lap time. No, he's not. Jonathan Cox has cut the entire chicane.
Well, Gurman also spun. You didn't. I did notice. I don't know. You saw, but he did. Why? That's why he screamed. He spun on the third turn.
I didn't really hear that. I was too focused on You See Me Flying, somehow miraculously putting it in third position, being the closest he is to his teammate in a very long time, even though he's beginning on the soft compounded tires. Now, is it Tapastor or Scar Logan who is getting the 5th place grid drop? I believe it's Scar
Logan. It's Scar Logan getting that third place, and he will start it. He is in 8th right now, but he's going to go all the way down to the bottom of the grid, just about.
Yeah, it is interesting though, because he's in the top 10, he will have to begin on those medium compounded tires, even outside of the top 10, even after the penalty. He will have to start on that compounded tires.
But it is Sweet Crown 19 who gains pole position. It's Flip Flop Fish behind him. You See Me Flying with a standout performance in qualifying, none that we've seen this season. Third on the grid, Niklas behind him, and Jonathan Cox has once again found himself in the top 5. A good start to his campaign in the Haas car. Gurman in 6th position in the Ferrari, and Blanca 101 is the other Haas in 7th position. I'll go over the grid one more time as we get ready for the race. It's the Spanish Grand Prix around the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, and I'm very, very excited to see how this race unfolds. It was a very, very exciting qualifying, and I'm sure it will be a very, very exciting race as well. Thank you for joining us. My name is WSR. I'm joined by Official Sully, and in the commentary booth today, it is the 2020 WSR Formula World Championship Spanish Grand Prix. And thank you for joining us if you are joining us wherever you are in the world right now. And we're just getting ready, 25 seconds and counting from the start of the race. And I'll go over the qualifying positions in the formation lap, and we will get ready to go for the race.
As far as I'm aware, the formation lap is on.
It is on. I did check that it was on. We will not have. We'll try not to have any more formation lap mistakes, or in the start of the season. Yes.
Yes. For a bit of a background on the track, because my mic was actually muted when I did go over it beforehand, this track is 16 corners with 2 DRS zones into turn 1 and 10. There are 16 corners, as I've already mentioned. The first ever race here was held in 1991. There was an edit to the track, though, made adding in a chicane of turn 15, added at late in the 2000s, I believe, which used to make it a very flat corner from turn 12 all the way to 15 at the time. 15 is now called RACC, as it is a chicane of 14 and 15. Last year's winner here was the pole man, Sweet Crown 19, and there'll be 33 laps in a 50% race.
Sweet Crown 19 is on pole position in today's race. Flip Flop Fish is behind him in the Mercedes. Used flying his teammate in his best qualifying position in 2020 in third. Nicholas 73 in fourth position, followed by Jonathan Cox in the Haas. Gurman is in the Ferrari in sixth position. Blank 101, the other Haas in seventh. Dempsey 62 in the Williams in eighth. Nathan De Villers finds himself in the top 10 in the McLaren in ninth. Tapaster in the Renault in 10th position, rounding off the top 10. Damien Carroll just outside of the top 10 and 11th in the other Williams. Deck 91 in the Racing Point in 12th position, and Scar Logan LPC with a 5-grid place penalty has put himself in 13th position on the grid. Unfortunately, also, though, starting on those worn medium tires, it will be very hard, I think, for him to make his way up the grid as the formation lap is about to end. They are coming through the chicane. Sweet Crown 19's car will get controlled by the game, and he will get put into his qualifying position of first place.
There's a bit of a gap between the top two, so Sweet Crown is going to be waiting on the grid for a tiny bit longer than everybody else. Gernman somehow is after jumping down to the very back of the grid somehow on the formation lap, so he'll have to overtake everybody to get back to his normal position. As we do have a look at everything, and this is quite interesting. As we said, Scar Logan has been deducted into P13, which means that technically Tapaster does have a free choice of tire, even though he is in the top 10, because he didn't originally qualify there.
And here we get ready for the 5 red lights. And it is going to be 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And here we go in Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix. Sweet Crown 19 gets away well. Flip Flop Fish slots in behind him as they go down in the turn 1. And there's a big crash at the start. Huge accident. The Haas, the Ferrari, and the Mercedes. You see me flying is out immediately. Going through turn 1. That should be a safety car incident as Sweet Crown 19 leads away. You see me, Flip Flop Fish. You see me flying having a catastrophic crash in the beginning of this race. Contact already as one driver is out and many drivers will have to make pit stops. Sweet Crown 19 fastest through the first sector. And that is a massive accident. We'll have to look back at that. Definitely some investigations coming in there. But you see me flying is out of this race. He is stuck on track. Will we see a safety car in the first lap? That was definitely a big incident. I know that the safety car... No safety car, in fact, as the cars will continue on normal green racing conditions as Sweet Crown 19 leads the rest of the pack. There is a considerable margin already between the McLaren, who has jumped all the way into 5th position. A great start for Nathan De Villers, but there is a gap by about 1 second and 2/10 between Damien Kroll and Nathan De Villers.
The 3 cars at the very back of the grid at the moment, Blank, Dempsey, and Gernman all have front wing damage. They will be pitting at the end of this lap.
Gernman has no front wing. So does Blank. Dempsey has half about of his front wing and a little bit of the other half. But absolute carnage.
Sweet Crown is after extending a gap to more than a second now from, or at least it was going into the corner, but he's after narrowing that down now. The deck is somehow after going fastest on lap 1, which that doesn't make sense in the slightest, but I won't question it.
And Dempsey's out of the session. What has happened? He's had an accident somewhere. Safety car has been deployed. Gurman gets an amazing pit stop just at the safety car deploying. This is going to be good news for him, hopefully, as he gets to make that pit stop. All the other drivers are not going to be making pit stops. They've already passed the start-finish line, but safety car has been deployed. Blank also didn't make his pits. Blank didn't make the pit stop?
No, Blank is in the pit stop. I'm watching him now in the pits.
No, he is in the pits, and Gurman.
Yeah, Gurman's also in the pits. Why is Gurman in first?
He's not in first. That's on your screen.
It just showed on my screen for a second that Gurman was in first, which was very weird. But they've after cutting down the length of that pit stop, which is very interesting, the deck is now beginning to catch up with the rest of the grid. There's a car stuck on track somewhere. I think that might just be a graphical glitch, I assume. Oh no, that's the safety car, waiting for everybody to come around. The safety car is now just being passed by Gurman as it's waiting for the leader to catch up. Sweet Crown now, his lead has been diminished. Everybody's lead has been diminished as we're now waiting for the 2 back cars of Blank and Gurman to now catch up with the rest of the field. That is best case scenario for Blank and Gurman, just so they can catch up. What happened to Dempsey though, I don't really understand. We'll have to get an eye into that one.
And used to be flying a little bit of furiousness, as he comments, and they're absolutely furious with that first lap incident. And we'll definitely have to see what happened there. I couldn't see exactly. There was just a big bundle of crashes happening. I wasn't focusing, of course. We were focusing on the front two. And we'll have to wait and see post-race what exactly happened in that incident. As Sweet Crown 19 has caught up to the safety car.
At a guess, I would say it was drivers being very, very slow. Or a driver swerving. Dempsey is after leaving the session. But I take it there was somebody at the very back around Gurnman and You See Me Flying, who did actually have a very good qualifying today, which is very upsetting to see. But it's I do believe it's mostly probably going to be a driver swerving a bit. I think everybody will now be on a one-stop because they're the two people who... No, sorry, a two-stop for Blank and Gurnman, but everybody else I think will be on a one-stop, either going from hard to mediums or mediums to hards. It'll be interesting to see which one ends up being the better strategy.
Safety car already in this race. We didn't get it on lap 1. We did get it on lap 1, just it wasn't at the same place as we'd expected to. As Dempsey crashing, he might have crashed maybe at the pit lane. That's the only assumption I can make, possibly, because he did not have a full front wing. He must have run some corner at the wrong angle with too much speed than I think the car could handle. As Sweet Crown 19, I think, has to be yelling at the safety car that he's going a little bit too slow. Maybe a little bit of Lewis Hamilton mind thoughts right now, as Sweet Crown 19 is trying to warm up his tires as much as possible. He does not want to have cold tires at the restart here, as the safety car is going a little bit slow, I would say, actually.
Yeah, it does seem to be going a bit slow, especially, but that might be just to try and help Gurnman and Blank catch up a little bit. Gurnman is still about 8 seconds behind. Blank is now officially caught up, I believe. For some reason, Gurnman is now first again.
That's only on your screen, not on mine.
Yeah, I know, it's a bit strange, but I'm just having graphical errors today, as my minimap also isn't yellow, it's still the clear color. Like we're racing, but it isn't. So, don't take my word for granted today, is what I'll say.
Well, lap 4 of this race, already a safety car. Will we see another one? But this has blown this race wide open right away. Anything can happen right now in this restart, as we are under a safety car right now. There was a crash from Dempsey. We didn't see exactly what happened. We did see the start line crash, and a huge amount of cars involved. You See Me Flying. The unfortunate issue. I do want to note that You See Me Flying was far back down the grid, so he obviously did not get a good start in that race. He was only starting in 3rd position, so he did not have a good start to the race. As Flip Flop Fish actually had to slow up quite a bit. Scar Logan's
after getting a 5
got
second
a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits on the safety car. How do you do that? Going so slow.
You'd have to cut a serious part of the track.
Safety car in this lap.
Yep.
Safety car in this lap. Sweet Crown 19 will be the pace setter. Safety car 1 line. You'll have to wait until you can start. So just about around the final part of the last turn. And Sweet Crown 19 is controlling the pack, warming up his tires. And there is a bit of a speed limiter, but he is allowed to begin when he wants to at a certain part of the track. And look at that. Flip Flop Fish wanting to get ahead as much as possible.
When it comes to Logan, let's point out when he's after getting that 5-second time penalty. I believe it was him. It was either him or the pastor. I can't remember exactly which one. I think it was Logan, though, who got it. That when it's normally a 5-second time penalty, that's normally...
And here we go. Sweet Crown 19 is starting now. He has sped up a lot. He's actually gotten a really good run on Flip Flop Fish, and Flip Flop Fish got caught out a little bit. Nicholas now behind Sweet Crown 19. As let's see what will happen here on to the start-finish straight. Will any cars be trying to make an overtake in the turn 1? Nicholas looking on the inside, but no cigar as he keeps it there. As somebody ran up on the grass a little bit, I think that was Jonathan Cox in the Haas. And we are racing once again, green racing conditions, as Sweet Crown 19 is still in the lead of this race. Nicholas, though, is all over Flip Flop Fish, who did not get a good run out of that safety car. Sweet Crown 19 did jump him a little bit. He was going very slow. He almost ran into the back of him, actually, Flip Flop Fish into Sweet Crown 19. But then Sweet Crown got started, and Flip Flop Fish did not have an answer for it. Now, will Sweetcar 19 be able to extend a gap a little bit, or are we going to see a possible battle between these top two again, as we did see in Bahrain? As I would like to point out, Nicholas and Jonathan Cox are getting back to the same shenanigans as they were before. Jonathan Cox running a little wide as he's trying to make an overtake on Nicholas, looking on the inside, but a little bit too far back into that hairpin. And they currently are the two closest drivers on track next to each other, but just about 3/10 separating them, as we have two drivers out so far.
There will be one more lap until DRS is re-enabled, as it does normally wait after the safety car about a lap or two until it's re-enabled. It's either going to be this lap or next lap. It's definitely going to be next lap then. Sweetcar 19 goes quickest with a 121.757. I do believe that the top 4 or even the top 5 are definitely in a shot at winning this race. It'll be interesting to see though how De Villiers does on the hard compounded tires compared to Jonathan Cox, even though he's after now getting very close. He goes very wide though at turn 3 as he's still having a look into turn 4. It'll be interesting to see how exactly he copes on those hard compound tires, as he seems to be gaining a gap towards Damien Corral, who's now 1.2 seconds behind. But the race at the top is now, the gap between each of the top 5 members seems to be leveling out at about a second between each of them. Well, just under a second between all of them, as it's going to be a close race, I think, between the top 4 or top 5 cars at this point. The effective leader will technically be De Villiers, because he will be pitting last, I assume, out of the top 5, being on the hard compounded tire. I'm expecting the mediums to go about 15, I wouldn't say. Maybe about 13 laps. Sweetcar goes very wide, has to cut the chicane, it looked like there, from what I saw, which allowed Flip-Flop Fish to catch up a bit. It's now DRS has been enabled. Sweetcar 19 is still leading the way, about 7.5 tenths ahead of Flip-Flop Fish. Has Gerdman after getting damage again? Because he's very far behind again.
No, there's no damage. He's still between the pack in 9th position.
Is he?
Yes. I'm watching on board with him. He's battling with Deck 91 at Blank 101.
Okay, Gerdman's glitching on my POV, so anything I say about Gerdman, just ignore it for the rest of the day, because according to my screen, he's 13.9 seconds behind everybody else. Sweetcar is still leading the way, about 7.8 seconds now. 7.8 tenths ahead of, about 8 tenths now ahead of the Mercedes of Flip-Flop Fish, the sole Mercedes in this race. Nicholas about a second behind him, and then followed by Jonathan Cox and Nathan De Villiers respectively. Another 2-second gap down to Damien Corral, followed closely by the Pastor. But this track is very difficult to overtake on, which I'm sure you will agree with me, Noah.
It's very difficult to overtake. Pretty much the start-finish line is really the only place you can really go to. And that is going to be problematic for some of these drivers who may get compromised at certain points. It depends how fast you are on this track. I want to point out Gurman is actually quite close to the Deck 91, about 0.4 of a second behind him. As he's now... Ooh, look at that. Deck almost lost it into that turn. And now Gurman should definitely make an overtake on the racing point. Deck 91 struggling in the racing point, and here comes the Ferrari of Gurman going side by side of him, and he should make the move before turn 1. And yes, the move made by the Ferrari. Blank going to 1 now will be trying to overtake Deck 91. And look at this, almost going side by side through turn 3, and they are going side by side through turn 3. That's amazing, as Blank 101 on the inside of Deck 91, still side by side in the turn 4, and he gets ahead of him. And now, there seems to be the Renault of Scar Logan LPC who's trying to get ahead of the Deck, and Deck is having really bad issues on that medium compound tire, and that's causing big problems for him early on in this race. No exact reason why he's having those issues, but nevertheless, he's having those issues.
Yeah, the Nicholas and you see me Flip-Flop Fish and the Mercedes are actually the closest together out of the car in the top 4. as they've beginning to gain a lap over, a bit now over De Villiers, who is on the hard compound tyres. At this point in time, I think it's going to come down to undercuts, overcuts, and a bit of a strategy race. As much as I hate to say it, I do like to see a bit of overtaking, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be that type of race today. As Nicholas is still about half a second behind Flip Flop, it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to make a move. I think the Mercedes is a bit too quick for him at the moment. Jonathan Cox is now falling back a bit, as is Nathan De Villiers, as Sweetground still leads the way.
Pastor getting ahead of Damien Carroll into turn 1 and making up places, but now Damien is going to try to challenge him in the turn 3, but Pastor closes the door on him and decides, no thank you, you're not overtaking me there, as Gurman right now is battling with the Haas of Blank 101. And I'm going to ride on board of Nicholas. He is currently still close to Flip Flop Fish, who has really not been able to make a good run of things, as the clean air around this track is very good for you, as Sweet Crown 19 is already 1.5 seconds ahead of him, lap 9 of 33. So still quite a few laps to go in this race, as just rounding around there in the background, Nathan De Villiers in the top 5 in this race. And Nicholas, again, very, very close to the Mercedes. Flip Flop Fish is having big problems trying to reconcile his car, trying to keep it together, and Nicholas seems to be the faster driver right now in that Aston Martin Red Bull car of 2019, as coming around the final turn, losing it a little bit though, and dropping back actually pretty considerably. He is going to have DRS, but again, he's not going to keep that advantage he grew over the whole lap and not able to make an overtake, so he definitely has to keep it closer, as Nicholas jumps back by a considerable margin from Flip Flop Fish.
It's very hard to actually overtake to get close enough on the back straight, just because of how much dirty air you will receive in the final sector. It's a very difficult area to follow in, which is why it's very difficult to overtake here. I do believe it'll come down to a bit of a strategy game tonight, which... Would you agree with me on that, Noah?
I think it might be. I mean, Nicholas is still getting close to him, and if he can just get a really nice run out of that chicane, he might be able to make an overtake. Here comes the DRS straight. This is where you keep that advantage into the third sector, and they're hoping that you keep it the rest of the time. Let's see if he can gain a little bit on him, and he only gains a few hundredths of a second. But this is where Flip Flop has been struggling.
Yeah, Blank is actually very close to Damien Corral, as it seems there's now going to be a three-way fight between Pastor Corral and Blank 101. Blank 101 on the mediums, while the two cars in front of him of the Pastor and Corral being on the hards. Scar Logan is also very close to the deck at the moment, and Sweet Crown is still leading the way. Now, Flip Flop Nicholas is still very close to Flip Flop Fish, but it just seems like Flip Flop is just a bit too far ahead of Nicholas when they finally hit that main straight. At the moment, there isn't many overtakes happening, but we're just really keeping an eye on it, as Blank 101 is still in this fight with Damien Corral and the Pastor, the closest battle on track at the moment.
Well, Damien Corral and the Pastor. Well, actually, Blank 101 is 2/10 behind Gurman on my screen. Sorry, 2/10 ahead of Gurman, now 3/10. Blank 101 and Damien Corral. Sorry, I'm getting confused here. As Nicholas is still within a second of Flip Flop Fish, but again, he's not able to keep up that momentum going into the chicane in Sector 3 and just loses it all and is not able to effectively make overtakes.
Blank is looking like he wants to try and make an overtake on Damien Corral. It's getting very close, especially in this third sector. Let's just see if he's able to follow him and maybe be able to attempt an overtake on the back straight. The gap is about 3/10 of a second, maybe 3.5. But it's definitely close enough for him to try and make an overtake.
Damien Corral gets really compromised, and they go side by side, and let's turn it. Damien, I don't know right there if Damien was kind of like, nah, you're not making an overtake there. Now that has surely compromised them, as now Blank 101 is getting overtaken by the Ferrari of Gurman. They're going to go side by side in the turn, and now Gurman is going side by side of Damien Corral. He makes a huge dive bomb on him, and now the Ferrari is compromised. Here comes Blank 101 side by side with the Ferrari this time as well. Now Blank 101 still going wide. Now the Ferrari has slided him and that was a dicey situation. Thankfully, nothing coming of it in terms of damage between the cars, but that was very, very dicey.
Yes, we're now about a third of the way through this race. Everybody's tire is about 10 or 11 laps old at this point, as I think in the next few laps we're going to begin to see the first round of pit stops. Well, the first and only round of pit stops, but I do believe Sweetground will... It's just going to be looking like a thing that it's just going to come down to strategy today, I think, to see who's ultimately able to win this Grand Prix. I think Sweetground might just have it today, but I think between Nicholas and Flip Flop, I think that's the fight for...
I want to notice Nicholas is
Cox
much closer.
is in the pits.
But Nicholas is much closer to Flip Flop Fish on this straight with his DRS. He's not going to be able to make an overtake, but he is considerably much closer to him coming into turn one, braking late. Jonathan Cox in the pits. What tires he put on? And it's hards.
The mediums.
No, I'm seeing hards on my screen.
Oh yeah, sorry, hards. My apologies. He's also after taking off the mediums. He now drops down to last position. As Sweetground is still leading the way, I expect somebody to respond to him in the next lap or two. I do believe Flip Flop will be, I think, the first out of the top three to be able to hit into the pits, because I think he's struggling the most.
And Gurman spins! Gurman spins and a crash! Gurman spins and a crash, now reverses on track, almost hitting deck 91. That could have been a catastrophic incident. And no safety car, no virtual safety car either, but Gurman now all the way at the bottom of the track, and that was a huge incident from Gurman. He's reversed on track.
That's very questionable, considering he nearly took out the Racing Point car, which I do believe is a bit of a danger, which could be investigated after this race, but we'll have to look into it a bit later on, as Scar Logan is now very close to the deck still, as Nicholas is also trying to keep close
and
to...
Flip Flop and Nicholas are both in the pits. Sweetground 19 is not. He has to respond.
He will have to respond.
Hard tires for Nicholas. Flip Flop Fish on medium. No, is he on mediums? I can't see the lighting. Is he on medium tires or hards?
Hards.
He is on hards. Both drivers on hards. Nathan DeVillers is in the second position right now. He has not made a pit stop yet.
He will go for a few more laps, considering he is on the hard competent tires. Gurman speeding in the pit lane, 5-second time penalty.
That is big. That is really big. And he has to make that front wing change now as the hard tires go on, I believe. Yes, they do. So can he extend those? He might be able to extend those till the end of the race.
Sweetground 19 is also... wait, is that putting on hard
tires? I know there's a lot of traffic as Nicholas and Flip Flop Fish are racing in this midfield battle, and this is not good for their pace right now with Sweetground 19. Lots of drivers are ahead of them right now. This is going to slow them up, and this really helps Sweetground 19 possibly make a pit stop and still remain ahead of these drivers. Is it going to come down to this level of traffic as Scar Logan LPC is ahead of him in 6th position? Here comes Flip Flop Fish, a huge dive bomb into the hairpin and gets ahead of Scar Logan LPC.
Lovely move. Blank 101 and Sweetground 19 I expect to respond.
And here comes into pits. Sweetground into the pits, and he's going to put on an... Oh, what's going on? They're waiting. Is there a penalty?
Has he been held?
They finally put on the tires, but a huge weight to put on those tires. Here comes Flip Flop Fish, and he's going to get jumped in the pit lane. What happened there? I didn't see a penalty for Sweetground 19. And now he's all the way down, and 9th position. Cox jumps him too in the pit lane.
Sweetground is furious. This is after playing very well into Flip Flop Fish's favor. The deck is into the pits, by the way. He's after putting on the hard...
Can you check the race director? Tires. I want to see, is there a penalty for Sweetground 19?
I'm going to do that now. Oh my god, that's horrible. He's just after exceeding track limits, and twice, I believe, but he hasn't actually got a penalty. This is absolutely ridiculous.
So he was held in the pit lane, 9th position for Sweetground 19. That has destroyed Sweetground 19's race. Absolutely destroyed it.
Now, De Villiers will put on the medium compound tires. He's now 5 seconds ahead of the Pastor, who is 2 seconds ahead of Blank, and a further 1.8, well, 2.5 seconds ahead of Blank, and 1.8 ahead of Damien Carroll. I believe De Villiers will rejoin in third, in third, just after Jonathan Cox. So De Villiers will be putting on the medium compact tires, which means he'll be very fast at the end of this race, which may mean he may be able to go to the end. Blank is into the pits, by the way, as Flip Flop will definitely get past him. One of the Renaults is also into the pits. I believe that's Scar Logan. Yes, it is. Sweetgrounds after jumping both Blank and Scar Logan. At least he didn't lose that to them. But now it's De Villiers who we're mainly focusing on to see how long he's able to push these tyres and be able to really utilise a very fast compounded tyre at the end of this race to see how far he can make up. I believe he is the outside shot of winning this race. Sweetground, I believe, might just be out of it now. But Flip Flop is definitely the favourite, but I think it's De Villiers being the outside shot.
Sweet Crown 19 is in traffic, and he is behind the Haas right now of Jonathan Cox. You like to get ahead of him as quick as possible, but Sweet Crown 19's race has been destroyed after that pit stop issue.
The Pastor is, by the way, 6.1 now behind Nathan De Villiers. De Villiers, I think, is really pushing this CRS at the moment as he's just trying to just get ahead. He's actually in 0 ERS mode. Okay, this is interesting. On my screens, he's into 2 now. But he's definitely just trying to push and push and push away from the people who are effectively leading.
Nathan De Villiers is not
Jonathan
pitted
and
yet.
Nicholas, Jonathan, and Sweetground are currently the 3 drivers who are fighting at the moment on track, as Sweetground will be trying to make an attempt on Jonathan Cox. I do believe he is close enough to make it. At 21.
But Cox also has DRS. They're going to be side by side in the turn 1. This is going to be really dicey. Going in the turn 1 and a big move, and what an amazing overtake by Sweet Crown 19 on Jonathan Cox. That was stunning, even with the lockup. Sweet Crown 19 gets ahead of Jonathan Cox there.
How long is the pit lane here, do you know?
I believe it's about 22 seconds, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, he'll come out behind Jonathan Cox, but ahead of Blank. He'll be well ahead of Blank, but a bit behind Jonathan Cox. De Villiers will be. It will be very, very interesting for him to see if he could be an outside chance on very, very fresh tyres. Will he try and stretch enough to go directly onto the soft compound, which was able to do 10 laps for a lot of the leaders? It'll be very interesting to see.
And he does not make a pit stop again. Still waiting to make that pit stop.
The Pastor and Damien Corral are yet to also pit.
And thank you for joining us. This is Worldwide Sim Racing's coverage of the 2020 Spanish Grand Prix. Nathan De Villiers is in the lead of this race at the moment. Sweet Crown 19 goes fastest on track, but he has had a blunder in the pit lane leading the race. Looked like he was still going to lead the race. A huge issue in the pit lane. The tires were not changed immediately. They finally got changed. Now he's all the way down in 6th. I have no idea why. There's no penalties that were being served for him unless there's something we can't see that he got. But nevertheless, Sweet Crown 19 may have had his race just blow up on him entirely unless there's a safety car deployed possibly again that could save him or some other wild incidents.
Flip Flop is now getting close to Damien Corral, as Sweet Crown is also getting very close to Nicholas again, only 3.5 tenths behind him, as Flip Flop is now about 6 tenths behind Damien Corral. I'm very interested to see if Damien Corral, De Villiers or De Pastor will pit this lap. I'm watching on board with De Villiers at the moment. De Villiers is pitting.
You got to slow up. Let's make sure he doesn't speed in the pit lane, and he does just about slow up. Now, where will Nathan De Villiers go? The Pastor goes into pits as well. Damien Corral will take the lead of this race at the moment. Now, for how long, though, is Flip Flop Fish is going to have DRS, and Damien Corral will be a sitting duck. Flip Flop Fish will retain the lead of this race again. We'll take the lead of the race. And it's going to be 6th. It's going to be 6th with mediums on.
Yeah, which is what I expected, just behind Jonathan Cox. Still a fair amount ahead, though, of Blank and De Pastor. De Pastor is now ahead of Blank, but only just about 1 second separating the 2 drivers. As of right now, I think De Villiers definitely has an outside shot at a podium. at this point, but it's going to be difficult trying to get past Sweet Crown 19 and Nicholas in order to do so. Damien Corral, I believe, will come out behind both De Pastor and De Villiers. Flip Flop is now leading. Very, very close though between him and Damien Corral. No, actually, a bit of a gap now forming.
And Sweet Crown 19 making the move on Nicholas into the hairpin. This is going to be dicey going side by side. And look at that. Nicholas actually, I think, closed the door on Sweet Crown 19. But now Sweet Crown 19 is going to get compromised, and Jonathan Cox is going to be all over him.
Will the two drivers behind it lose out time in the dirty air through the third sector? It's very difficult
up from
to follow.
Sweet Crown.
Yeah. Okay. It looks like Jonathan Cox, after losing it out a bit, but Sweet Crown will be close enough to make a move.
And look at this. Damien Carroll goes into the pits. Here comes Sweet Crown 19. He's going to dive on the outside in the turn one. They're going to go side by side into the turn. This is going to be amazing if Sweet Crown can keep it happen. And yes, he can. Overtakes him.
Don't know what the yellow flag was for, but it was very interesting. But Sweet Crown is now up to effective P2, still 5 seconds behind Flip Flop Fish. His race is looking very dicey at the moment. Still looking on board with De Villiers, who looks like he'll be getting involved in the fight with these three drivers sooner rather than later, and he'll be on the quickest compound tires. It looks like he might just be able to get onto the podium.
But Nicholas is not giving up. He is actually keeping up with Sweet Crown 19. There's a yellow flag, and
the deck is off. The deck spun.
And Nicholas goes a little wide in the turn. He had DRS. I don't know if he lost a huge amount of his momentum, but he is still close to Sweet Crown 19. This isn't battle that's completely over, but Flip Flop Fish with the clean air will obviously have an advantage above Sweet Crown 19. This shouldn't be a battle that Sweet Crown 19 can really win unless Flip Flop really ruins his tires. Now, coming into that third sector where the dirty air is very prevalent, will he keep close to him? And no, he's going to extend that gap by quite a bit. But he's actually not a huge amount extended it, as there is going to be DRS. Let's see how close he can get to him coming up the turn one. I don't think a move's going to be made, but he will stay close to the Ferrari.
De Villiers, by the way, is getting very close. De Pastor just had the quickest lap of the race behind De Villiers at the moment. De Villiers is only 1.7 behind the battle for second, third and fourth. As this battle intensifies, I think this will be the battle to the end of the race. I think Flip Flop might have just won this on pure luck after Sweet Crown had a blundering pit stop. Third sector yellow flag, don't know where that is. I believe that might be the deck again. I'm still unaware of what exactly is going on with the deck at the moment, but I'd like to point out as well that Racing Point are still the only team yet to score points in this championship. The championship in the constructors is being led by Mercedes and then followed by Ferrari, and then I think it's Haas. I'll just double check that for you now. No, it's McLaren, but they're in a very close scrap with Haas at the moment, and Renault just behind them. A 5 second penalty for Gurn for speeding in the pit lane.
Who is at last place right now? Has found himself in last. He is in the pits again. What tire is he going to put on? I believe he put on the softs, and yes, he does put on the soft compound tire.
11 laps ago.
Flip Flop Fish is coming out of, and now there's a turn one. Oh, there's a hit. There's a spin on track, and somebody hit. It was the deck. Somebody was coming out of the pit lane. It was the deck 91 who hits Flip Flop Fish. Now that could have been awful for Flip Flop Fish, who made contact with the deck 91 into turn one. If that spun Flip Flop Fish, the drama that could have happened there.
I'd like to point out though that shouldn't have happened in the first place. Like, the deck should have let him through easier than that. That could have been detrimental to Flip Flop's race. There's now a yellow flag in sector one. I believe that's still the deck. The deck has got a front wing end plate missing on the left-hand side.
Well, he shouldn't even have been making a move in the turn one, because that's not a position he was battling for. He's in 11th, and Flip Flop is overtaking him. That's a blue flag situation.
If that reminds you of anything, it reminds you of Esteban Ocon on Max Verstappen back in Brazil in 2018.
I think it actually reminds me of, I believe it was Carlos Sainz and Lance Stroll, Carlos Sainz ran into Lance Stroll coming out of the pit lane and really ran into a side pod. That was in Bahrain.
Gurman got another 5 second penalty.
Nathan
by
DeVillers
the way.
goes fast this, by the way.
Yeah, on the fresh mediums. He's getting very close to this battle in front of him, by the way.
Jonathan Cox makes a big move on Nicklaus in the turn 1, but no, not able to do
German,
enough.
another 3-second time penalty.
Now, Nathan DeVillers is catching up on Jonathan Cox. This is a big battle for third place. As Jonathan Cox is trying to get ahead of Nicklaus, and look at this. Oh, still side by side, and then going ahead of it. Now Nathan DeVillers is getting in on it as well.
Nearly makes damage. Nearly gets damage as well. Nearly hits the back of Jonathan Cox. This is going to be a battle till the end of the race. I believe 10 laps to go. Over 2/3 now in this race gone. As it looks like Flip Flop Fish is race to lose at the moment still, as Nicklaus is in third and Sweet Ground is in second. This is going to be a very close affair.
As here comes Jonathan Cox. They're side by side right now, and ooh, that was a little bit of on grass situation there. And now, somebody does hit the back. Nathan DeVillers does hit the back of Jonathan Cox.
No
Is there
damage
on the car? No damage.
No.
He has been lucky to get away with no damage on the car, as that could have been a serious incident for him.
This is going to be a very, very close affair, though, going into the last few laps. But De Villiers just keeps on losing it under traction at the end of the lap. He will have DRS to catch back up again, but that's all he's able to really do, as Jonathan Cox may try and make a movement on Nicklaus, but I think he's just a bit too far back as well. At the moment, Nicklaus is keeping his podium in his second ever race in WSR.
And a horrible race in Bahrain, but Jonathan Cox and Nicklaus somehow battling, but this time for a much more important position of third. And now there might be a move around the outside in the turn 4. No, as Nicklaus still stays ahead of Jonathan Cox. Now this is the exact same incident we had before, but now look at this. Oh my goodness, getting really close. And now look at this. Nathan DeVillers has a gap there he could have gone for, but this is getting extremely dicey.
Something I believe happened to Blank, by the way, somewhere on track. He's after having a bit of an incident.
And he does have end plate damage.
Yeah, he was just going very, very slow. I don't know. I didn't exactly see what happened, but he definitely had an incident somewhere.
And look at this. Nathan DeVillers goes on the inside of Jonathan Cox into the hairpin in Sector 3. And this is big, big moves right now by the McLaren. It's as close as I've seen Formula 1 driving in a while. It reminds me of Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell in Monaco, how close they're getting to each other. And surprisingly, though, even with the dirty air, they're still able to keep it close. Nathan DeVillers is closer to Jonathan Cox by quite a lot, and this should be an easy overtake for him, even with the DRS for Jonathan Cox. Let's see if they'll go side by side in the turn 1. Which line will we take? Jonathan Cox, and he's going to have to take the outside line in the turn 1. He should get ahead of him, and yes, he does. Onto the grass goes Jonathan Cox. He had to take a little bit of an evasive action, but nevertheless, Nathan DeVillers, a clean overtake from him, and he gets in the 4th position. Now we're going to try to chase down Nicklaus.
Blank is pit. 5-second time penalty for Blank for speeding in the pit lane. Blank is now going through the pit lane. This will drop him outside the points, I believe. Maybe. Possibly. Not entirely sure. He's now putting on the soft compound tires. It looks like he will be going for the quickest lap of the race. That seems like his plan at the moment, as he does have to change his front wing. Dedek and Gurman are also still struggling down the back. It's been a horrible race for them, but a horrible race even more for UC Me Flying, who has been crashed out. As Flip Flop Fish still leads the race with only 8 laps to go. Nathan DeVilliers is very close to Nicklaus, as he seems to be gaining a bit on Jonathan Cox behind. DeVilliers will be close to Nicklaus. It's just if he can control his traction out of these 2 corners to maintain the gap as close as it is to try and overtake Nicklaus. It looks like he might be able to as well. It's very close. Oh, quickest for Nathan DeVilliers as well, at 1 minute 20.6.
Let's see in the turn 1. He's going to look. He's going to go on the outside in the turn 1. They're going to side by side. No. Now a switchback, though, by Nathan DeVilliers. Now another switchback. And where will he go? Turn 3. They're not going to be side by side. There comes Nicklaus. He had to make that lift there. And then Nathan DeVilliers almost got into the back of him. As now a look around the outside in the turn 4 for Nathan DeVilliers, but nothing happening. In a really awesome aerial shot right now from the helicopter camera on my spectator view, as Nathan DeVilliers, almost goes into the back again. And now Jonathan Cox, who saw the compromise, and look at this, almost making an overtake there, but that would have been extremely hard to do. DRS, the zone they're coming up to right now, and this is a mega battle right now for 3rd place in this race. Here comes
nice
Nathan
on-board
DeVillers.
shot at the
Will he
moment.
go on the inside? No, looked at it, but
No.
didn't do it.
Gurman's picking up a lot of penalties.
He might have to
I'm
get
not sure
looked
if you're-
into that. Yeah, he is picking up quite a lot. He's not really worrying too much. And now Jonathan Cox has actually dropped back a little bit from Nathan DeVillers. Was there an issue there coming out of the turn? He didn't get very good traction, but he has caught it back a little bit, but it is going to hurt him in that chicane. But no, actually, he gained in that chicane as Nathan DeVillers, I think, got compromised. And now Nicholas has extended the track. He's trying to break slipstream as much as possible. Now Nathan DeVillers should theoretically get ahead of him if he can try. Let's see where he's going to go again. Same place again, side by side. This time DeVillers gets a better run, and now there's contact between the two. He did push him off a little bit, and they're still going to go side by side now, as now Nathan DeVillers does get ahead of him. Jonathan Cox is trying to make an overtake, and oh, Nicholas goes on the inside, and he did spin himself out, and now that's huge incident. Nicholas
a bit too aggressive
spins as he tried to overtake Nathan DeVillers. Is there frustration from the push out from Nathan DeVillers? Nevertheless, it's ruined him for a podium position. It's now Jonathan Cox and Nathan DeVillers battling. DeVillers in the third in the McLaren. I think there was contact into the turn 4.
That might be investigated as well after the end of this race.
I think it was too aggressive from Nicholas. I don't think there was really a move to be made there. I think he was a little frustrated with the turn 2 push-off from Nathan DeVillers to try to get ahead into third.
I believe it was more of Nicholas pushing off DeVillers, forcing him to be off the road. And then the overtake occurred. I thought it was the opposite way around, that Nicholas pushed him off, not the other way around. But okay, if you say so. About 5/10 back now to Jonathan Cox. Now
Jonathan Cox is gaining a huge slipstream right now for Jonathan Cox. Goes on the inside, no. Nathan DeVillers gets but he gets much better braking than Jonathan Cox.
Definitely. The gap now between Sweetground and Nathan DeVillers is now 7.2. It looks like it may finish first and second for Flip Flop and Sweetground. The amount of times you said that already is not getting old. Well, depends on who you ask. If you're a Sweetground fan or if you're a Flip Flop Fish fan, that might get old. Depending on which one of those two you support. Nathan DeVillers, of course, is still in third, barely holding to Jonathan Cox behind, who Nicholas, after his spin, is now about 2.6 behind him, as Tapastor seems to look like he wants to gain a bit on Nicholas behind.
Jonathan Cox, braking a little bit late, almost went into the back of Nathan DeVillers, compromised a little bit into the hairpin now, coming through Sector 3. He has dropped back a little bit, I would say, from Nathan DeVillers, who has been starting to gain advantage in that clean air that he's receiving, but can Jonathan Cox keep it up? 4 laps to go, including this one. And that goes really wide. Jonathan Cox lost a bundle of time now outside of a second. He may still have DRS. He does have it, but he's not going to be able to gain too much time from this. And that's a big error, and that might have cost Jonathan Cox the podium position.
I think he might be able to get back within the 1 second margin. If he's able to do that, I think he might be fine, but it's going to be close. Like, he can't afford any more slip-ups, and he really needs DeVillers to slip up a bit. But as of right now, Sweetground has been... So, in a bit of a conclusion, Sweetground has been robbed by his pit crew, and Flip Flop is getting a lucky win, and DeVillers is after pulling off a masterclass. Is that a fair assumption?
I don't know if Flip Flop's necessarily done a masterclass. I think he...
No.
Oh, Gurman's out of the race!
DeVillers.
Now, has he quit?
Probably.
I think he may have quit. I'm going to write on board. There is a... No, safety car! Lap 29 of 33! Safety car deployed.
Wait, could it finish under safety car?
It might finish under safety car. 4 laps to go, but now why? Now why is there a safety car? Tapastor now! Oh my goodness, speeding under the safety car.
He should serve that immediately. He has to serve that immediately. It's just a logical decision. Yes, he will. This will be his drive-through. Now, I'd like to point out, did Flip Flop get... Okay, Flip Flop is now behind the safety car. 3 laps to go, could it finish under safety car? If not, this has just opened this race wide as a can of worms. Jonathan Cox into the pits, Nicholas into the pits, DePastor into the pits, Damien Corral into the pits. Wait, oh, DePastor's after changing tyres. He still has to serve his drive-through. That's annoying. As Damien Corral's also into the pits. This is very, very dangerous at the moment, especially for Flip-Flop and Sweetground, as now behind them is Nathan de Villiers, who is now in 3rd place on fresher medium tyres. Jonathan Cox, Nicholas, DePastor, and yeah.
I would like to know, Cox, the safety car is going really slow, and Flip-Flop Fish, same thing with Sweetground, has gone into the back of the safety car almost multiple times.
Yeah. Jonathan and DePastor now, I would like to point out, are behind the safety car. Like, are on fresh softs behind the safety car. They're currently 4th and 6th at the moment.
Now, I think Gurman quit. I'm not sure, because I didn't see a yellow flag for Gurman's car unless he did crash. There's a DNF, did not finish.
No, was that terminal damage, or is that...
Was it
what's that marked as?
Maybe he did have a car failure. Maybe
terminal damage.
Maybe gearbox terminal damage. So maybe he did have an accident, or it was a gearbox issue of some sort, or maybe
he won't receive a gearbox issue. I don't believe at 50% there. That's very rare.
Well, Sweetground last race said that his gearbox was at like 77% or something like that.
Yeah, but Bahrain's a very gear-heavy track. Spain isn't as much gear-heavy. Could it end under safety car?
I've never seen an F1 race end under the safety car in the game.
In a video game. Yeah, in the game. I've seen it a few times in real life.
Now, the last safety car we had didn't last very long.
2 laps.
2 laps.
It normally lasts until everybody is behind the safety car. I'd like to point out that Blank is after pitting. I'd like to point out that the pastor still has to serve that drive-through. If he doesn't serve that within 3 laps, he gets disqualified.
So it's not showing a served.
But he's after changing tires. In order for...
Right.
To be classified, he can't change tires. He just has to drive the car.
Did you see that? Nicholas kind of pushed DePastor off track a little bit. I mean, to be fair, he shouldn't be trying to get ahead of him, but regardless, that was a little weird.
Honestly, I think Jonathan Cox might be in the position to win this race if it doesn't end under a safety car. Blank pitting might have just messed up this entire safety car.
Why would Jonathan Cox win? Is there penalties that I'm not aware of?
Well, he's on fresh softs, and he's only on 4.
Safety car in this lap. Flip-Flop Fish will hold the cars ahead of him. This is going to be big. Lap 31 of 33.
Jonathan Cox is on fresh softs. Nathan de Villiers is on fresh mediums. They have to make... Well, I say fresh. They're fresher than Sweetgrounds and
Blank
Flip-Flops.
101, 10-second time
penalty.
Exceeding track limit. He must have cut something big.
He probably cut that entire corner of the fast right-hander.
A bit of a Tia Marta cut right there, as we would say. As coming through the chicane, Flip-Flop Fish will now get his restart going. Flip-Flop Fish is following him, and he did not get a good start. It's synonymous almost, but no. Flip-Flop Fish not get a good start. Safety car in, and here we go. Let's see what happens. Flip-Flop Fish there's a slipstream with Sweet Crown 19. This is going to be big in the turn 1. Is there going to be a move made? No. At the moment,
this is a battle between the top 4 right now.
DePastor, 3-second time penalty, but he still hasn't served the drive-through, as we know.
I think DePastor has to serve it this lap, or he's disqualified. If my maths is correct, he has to serve it this lap. DePastor will finish in 9th position after this, then.
And oh, look at this. Jonathan Cox getting almost trying to get ahead of Nathan de Villiers, who was compromised. Blank 101, another 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings. Nathan de Villiers did not get a good run out of there. Now DRS is going to be activated. Can a move be made into the hairpin? I think it might actually be. Is he close enough? And no, now Nathan de Villiers, I think Nathan de Villiers moved a little bit in the braking zone there. That was a little bit of a double move in my opinion. And this has definitely made it a Sweet Crown 19 flip-flop fish battle till the end of this race right here. And now let's see, can Sweet Crown 19 get close enough to flip-flop fish for DRS activation? No, I think flip-flop fish is kept ahead of him, and this is
Capaster.
Flip-flop fish might be able to keep the lead of this race. The Pastor didn't box. Flip-flop fish goes fastest. Sweet Crown 19 does have DRS. He's gaining on him, but it's not going to be close enough. Jonathan Cox is side-by-side of Nathan DeVillers in the turn one. So is the Renault and the Red Bull. They're still going side-by-side. Jonathan Cox and then McLaren. Now side-by-side through turn three.
Passed?
Jonathan Cox is passed at the moment into the third position. And the Haas, there's a spin from the Renault, but he catches it. It's the Pastor, I believe, who caught it. Nicholas gets ahead of him. McLaren still side-by-side of Jonathan Cox, though, but now it is Cox in the third position. Now, barring any penalties, I'm not sure, will Jonathan Cox keep that position? Nathan DeVillers is trying to chase him down, but it might be too late. Now, Sweet Crown 19 is still chasing down Flip-Flop Fish, but I don't think it's going to be enough. There's not really any places to overtake. Final lap of this race. Flip-Flop Fish should keep the lead of this race and should win the Spanish Grand Prix. What an amazing race it would have been for him. Safety car at the end. Nicholas Gurman has left the session. Nicholas is coming. He's in fourth position. DeVillers has dropped to fifth. A terrible, terrible safety car restart for him, as he's going to finish now at the bottom of the top five. Here comes Flip-Flop Fish around the final turn. He is going to win the Spanish Grand Prix. Jonathan Cox in third. He'll finish in third.
Nicholas fourth.
And DeVillers fifth.
The Pastor, 20-second penalty. It's unserved drive-through. I thought so. He drops down to ninth, as predicted.
As the deck is a lap behind. A full lap behind.
To Pastor, a 20-second penalty for an unserved drive-through.
At least he didn't get disqualified, to be fair. It's better than not. Yeah. At least the Surd got some points.
As of right now, I think the person who's really the person who I say is very upset at the moment is definitely Sweet Crown, who should have been his win really after that blotched pit stop.
But it is Sweet Crown 19 who gets second.
Alan Prost.
Flip-Flop Fish,
Alan Prost.
Alan Prost wins the Spanish Grand Prix, coming out of retirement. Forget Renault, it's now Mercedes time. Flip-Flop Fish wins the Grand Prix. Sweet Crown 19 gets in second. Jonathan Cox in the Haas gets a podium position. Thank you for joining us. This is Worldwide Sim Racing. My name is WSRX.
Or Noah Clark. And I've been Official Sully.
And you've been watching Worldwide Sim Racing coverage of the 2020 Spanish Grand Prix. Thank you very much for joining us, and have yourselves a wonderful night.
Show the result.